To create consistency in our designs, we can use a concept known as repetition. In other words, the act of repeating something. Repetition is, in many ways, the perfect counterpart to visual hierarchy. We're able to use repetition to manage how a user browses something and how they understand the overall design. Repetition is really important for how the user digests all the information on a page. We don't want to overwhelm people. Look at these buttons. Some might say they're beautiful, most would disagree, but each of these buttons has a different shape, a different color, a different size. It's a mess. Why? Because now someone has to do a ton of work to figure out what each of these elements mean, in that they are a button. They have to decide what each of them are, but if you repeat the same visual style, the user can understand at a quick glance that they are all buttons. And this doesn't just only apply to buttons, it applies to all elements on any page, any presentation, or any website. We could look at two examples here. One, where the elements of form are all over the place in consistence, and then we'll look at another, where we're repeating the same visual style over and over, the same shape and same general layout. Repetition in these cases, reusing these visual patterns, and it creates consistency in these forms, and creates consistency in the buttons. What about headings? Navigate the content is a pain without consistency, but by repeating the heading styles, users can quickly understand how this information is organized. Repetition saves our brains from getting overwhelmed, and that's the point. It establishes patterns, and our brains love patterns the same way it loves symmetry. But there's an even more interesting thing here, which is that repetition sets the rules. By establishing consistency, we can break the rules and to bring even more attention to something, like the button, and it's different from the others, and breaking that pattern is what brings attention to it. A lot of designers, especially early on, think they're helping by creating variation. They think that increasing the visual excitement, but it's so much more work for the brain to figure that out. Sometimes the best design is the design that gets some things out of the way, and leans into the idea to use repetition to create consistency. Amazon does this really well. Take a look at the products. They repeat the pattern over and over. They have the product image, the price, they tell you whether it has Prime shipping, they repeat the same exact pattern over and over. Now imagine if each product got a different treatment. It's not so easy to figure out and compare these products, but because Amazon repeats these styles, it creates a visual consistency that's really effective. Apple also does a fantastic job at using repetition. They don't just use visual consistency in the headings, they do it in ways that let you interact with each of the products. Each product has two calls to action, learn more and buy, and this doesn't change between the iMac, the MacBook Air, nor does it change between the MacBook Pro and the Mac Mini, and that is by design. They're blue, and it's pretty clear, they're actionable, so that you can click on them the way that you know. What about BBC News? We're on the science page, and this is a really good example that not only visual hierarchy, the feature article gets significantly more visual prominence based on the size of its container, its proximity. Each article serves as a great example of repetition. Each article has an image, a headline, a brief thesis or summary, and at the bottom, the time since publication and the category. This consistency makes the homepage simple to browse, even though it's packed with tons of content. Even though the next sections repeat the same basic style, the images and headings are the same, they're located lower on the screen, and these don't have the same summaries or any of the information the above article have. It helps to ask a couple of questions when designing a PowerPoint, a website, or anything that involves design. How many visual variations do we have? How many heading styles or variations of that type of content? The more you scan your work to reduce complexity using repetition, the more beautiful your end result is going to be.